Fam.
So let's dismantle the bullshit about January 6th, because the U.S. is still exaggerating about January 6th. Like, they are still hyper focused on this, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, Facebook is banning anybody that is charged on, that was charged on 1/6, not convicted, charged. So even if you're not convicted, now you are banned. This is with regard to the riot at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. And they're also fact checking claims that the riot was staged, which, I mean, staged might be a broad bad term, but really like they let them in. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a minute. I wanted to read Sandy Bacombe tweet. I don't really know who this person is. I simply agree with their tweet. Because DC is not a state, the only person who can call up the National Guard is the president. On January 6th, over 17 requests were denied. Please, would an actual journalist report on this? Trump fired all of the Department of Defense brass on November 9th. Chris Miller installed to stonewall the National Guard. If we recall, we went through all of the FBI, the talking about the whole hearing where they were talking about how they ignored a lot of the calls by the mayor to like that was, hey, we might have a thing here. All of that was ignored. Mm-hmm. We have the most powerful military in the world. We are a police state. We have more people in jail. We literally, we had police surrounding us for Force the Vote and for Julian Assange days before, a day or two before. Yeah. And where were all those police? Why didn't they stop this? They had all the information, all of this. They didn't want to stop it. Yeah. And it is very clear that they needed a reason to continue to push this fascistic authoritarian just legislation that the Biden administration is now pushing under the guise of countering domestic terrorism. And I'm not going to get sick of talking about this because we saw how the media framed everything in real time.
Yep. Go ahead. I ditto. I mean, there's nothing really. There were more people at the Force the Vote, more police at the Force the Vote fucking protest than there were almost in January 6th. And that's no lie. So, they can get out there in a hurry. We saw the zip ties. We saw everything. They're ready to arrest us and get us out of there. And we had 50 people. Yet there's hundreds of thousands of people there, and you don't amp up. You can just snap your finger and have everybody there if you need to be. It's very, very fishy, everything that went on. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Something is going on, fam. Something is going on. Here's your good friend. What do we got?
All right. So, I'm not trying to be petty or to bring this up because I don't like Jordan. I am trying to bring this up because this whole thing that we just talked about in the first segment, right? This whole neo-progressive attempt to really push the exaggeration that this was an insurrection, the exaggeration that all this trauma happened. Now, I'm not going to question particular journalists who were scared because we were kind of like, oh, this might get hairy. We didn't we didn't let Johnny go all the way up there because
he wanted
to. Yeah. But because we were like, I was afraid of the cops like having something more than anything, because we've dealt with it in Portland. We've dealt with it in Seattle. We've dealt with it in LA. We have seen what the police do. And I thought they were just going to have like the National Guard come in and start like, there's going to be I thought there was going to be like a trampling of sorts. That's what I was afraid of, because there's so many people in general. Yeah. But at the Capitol entrance, that's where, some of these people like Jonathan from New York was reporting, right? John Farina. Yeah. And I value that bravery of going up there and reporting that. I'm not going to question how traumatic he felt or how he felt. I am saying as a whole, the event and the way AOC and all of Congress and all of these people watching these selected clips, right, from mainstream media, how they were clutching their pearls at how this event was just an insult to our institutional of democracy and a process and a democratic process happening. That is what I'm attacking. I'm not attacking people's personal trauma. I'm attacking the whole thing was an exaggeration, manipulated and weaponized to push fascistic takeovers and fascistic like censorship and all of these like crackdowns of surveillance on us.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm attacking.
And let me just give a little perspective on what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. I was 10 times worried, and I wasn't even worried that much, but I was 10 times worried in Portland than I ever was at the Capitol building. In the Capitol building, it was just so, it was so eye-opening to see a lot of these Trumpers that were so confused about the police firing at them, hitting them with tear gas. You know what I'm saying? And we've been in the thick of things. You guys went to Seattle too as well. But I'm going to tell you this right now. At no time did I really ever think this was it could get bad and stuff like that. But this wasn't something like a war zone.
Yeah.
This wasn't something. It wasn't as bad as Portland when they were up in the streets and
because the cops were shooting at protesters.
Yeah.
With weapons of war.
Yeah.
That was scary. That was scary.
Yeah.
That was traumatizing. Being in a car with hardcore weapons pointed at you at gunpoint,
smashing windows.
That was scary.
Portland was 10 times worse than what we experienced at the Capitol.
By the people in power, by the agencies, by the police, by the what was it? They sent the feds, they sent the actual feds to Portland. That was Trump doing that. That was, on top of the governor of Portland also sending their own police. Donald Trump did that. I'm not denying that was an authoritarian. I'm saying it was. I'm saying that was scarier than this. So this is what Jordan said, because Glenn Greenwald said, wonder what would happen to them, because this is regarding the Vice article, which we're going to go over. But he said, wonder what would happen to them if they had to report from war zones or stand down authoritarian governments trying to imprison them. Also wonder if they ever take a few seconds to compare their trauma to Julian Assange's, because this is regarding, the Vice report. Who survived the Capitol riots or that journalists who survived the Capitol riots are still struggling, right? And I'm gonna address that as well. But this is where Jordan comes in. He said, disagree with Glenn Greenwald and others on this minimizing PTSD and continued issues journalists who covered 1-6 on the ground are having. John Farina, who shot historic footage for Status Quo that was picked up everywhere, nearly broke his ribs in a stampede of Trump supporters as they barreled into him while trying to steal police shields and crushed a cop's head into the door. John, who has covered dangerous Proud Boys and white supremacist rallies as well, has also had lingering PTSD from 1-6, and I've spoken with him about a while. We were on the road trip, on the road reporting on other things. With all due respect to Glenn, you were not there, neither was I, but you don't have to be a journalist literally reporting in a war zone to be affected physically or mentally in an extremely volatile story on the ground. You don't. We were affected like that in Portland. This armchair tweeting, trying to minimize lingering physical and mental effects reporters or photojournalists have, is not constructive and is super condescending. For me personally, I don't discuss it much, but I have lingering mental health issues from what I reported/saw at Standing Rock. And then he said, 75% of the time I agree with Glenn's criticism of the mainstream media as elitist stenographers for the powerful, but on this, he is just wrong. He said, I think he responded to him right here. I'm just going to read that part really quickly. Yeah. Glenn said, I also object to the exaggeration of what 1-6 was, just as I spent a decade or more objecting to the exaggeration of the threat of Islamic extremism. The endless heaving and crying over the insurrection is being used to fuel the new war on terror. Yep. It needs to be in perspective. 100%. This is what my issue is with people like Jordan and other progressives. They go right to the emotion, like, you are dismissing trauma. No, that was his independent experience. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the exaggeration of a lot of these mainstream media journalists who weren't even there, who stole Jordan's footage and stole my footage, our footage. Yeah. Because they didn't get it, and they picked and chose what footage to use for their fucking narrative. Yeah. And that is what we're criticizing here. And their narrative has been used to push this whole new war on domestic terror. And now all of us are domestic terrorists or domestic violent extremists, DVEs.
Yeah. And Johnny Farina also responded back over there too as well. And let me just say this much, that Johnny Farina got probably the hairiest footage that was out there. That's why I take my hat off to him. He was in the real thick of this one part where police were going back and forth with supporters, spraying stuff, trying to grab the shields. But if you look at our footage, right, and go take a look at it, there was some stuff going on, but it was not that hairy. It was a lot of people waving flags and hitting cowbells and yelling and hitting the horns and saying, all right, they're voting for stuff now in the chambers, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure they hear us and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it really, to tell you the truth, what Jonny caught, was a small portion of what was really going on out there. Just look at his footage, look at our footage, which is a little bit outside. And don't get me wrong, too, as well. They're all profiting off of their footage, off Status Quo's footage, off of our footage, and they're not giving any of the independent media their due and stuff. So they've stole our footage, for crying out loud. But so you have to keep things in perspective that even though Jonny Farina did catch some really hairy stuff, I would say he caught some of the most hairiest stuff, fam, if not the most hairiest part.
Absolutely. But it was tiny compared to everything that was going on. Yeah. So I responded by saying I disagree with Jordan, and this is from the start, because Jordan has had this was an insurrection. This was a whole coup from the start. I said he pro-clutched this whole event without being there. Police allowed people in. Why do people leave that out? Yeah. Police allowed people in when days prior they were surrounded. They'd surrounded activists for Assange and forced the vote. The event was absolutely not an insurrection or coup or anything traumatic like Congress and mainstream media claim. Like the whole event as a whole, like his personal experience might have been. And again, nobody is trying to dismiss that. But at the same time, a lot of these journalists that were interviewed by Vice weren't even freaking what are they talking about? That they were like, it's ridiculous. I was there reporting on the election fraud accusations for which Sheridan claimed we should be deplatformed and that we helped stoke what happened at the Capitol. Our video, too, was used without consent by the DOJ to spin a false narrative regarding Brian Sicknick. We've gone over this many times. There's the link to the Washington Post. You can see our little thing there, our little logo. And they said that, these two men were arrested for the bear mace, but turned out it wasn't the bear mace. It turned out it wasn't the fire extinguisher. It turned out none of these things were true. They haven't had to retract any of it. Joe Biden is still continuing to use that as if it were fact when it's completely not. Yeah. And I said at this point, it's lunacy to continue comparing this event to anything resembling a coup or warfare. I'd love to see some of the bought off mainstream media journalists and Congress people deal with the actual trauma the working class and the people we sanction and torment with bombs deal with daily.
Hold on a second. Oz, do you got the thread up real quick? We want to make sure they saw it. We had it before. Did they see the Washington Post thing? Just want to make sure if you click on Fee's thread.
Yeah, we're trying to scroll through this, remember?
Yeah. He had it up before when we were not. We were kind of going through the other part of it.
Yeah, it was hard to see.
It's okay. Yeah. Let's find Fee's thread real quick, and
it should be the linked on the slide you're in. So is
that it?
There it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I said not to mention the most vital fact, and this is the most vital fact, is that the U.S. intelligence community and the Biden administration have weaponized the fear-mongering to push for authoritarian censorship and legislation, naming practically anyone a DVE under the guise of domestic terror. Like that is the issue. Like, no, and again, I'm not going to go through this, but I'm just saying I don't deny that things didn't get scary, but the whole event was not what it's made out to be. Yeah. And this whole weaponizing trauma, once again, that the left tends to do is really disingenuous to really to really say, because we were there and we weren't just trying to get, Trump supporters being crazy, because that we don't spin that. We're trying to get the whole thing, the whole picture of why these people were here. Not just, they're Trump supporters, let's mock them. Why are you here? Why did you think the election was rigged? What do you feel? What's going on here? That's what we were doing, and we couldn't stream it live because there was no signal. It was hard to get signal for everybody to get signal.
Everybody can do their job. And I just want to say too, as well, the fact that Joe Biden's using this, the establishment is also using this to create policies that infringe more on our civil liberties, that allow banks to give out personal information when they shouldn't be able to. I mean, that's the way they're catching a lot of people that were there on January 6th. They're talking to their banks, finding out they use the ATM around the corner, and then zapping them. And a lot of these people are being detained now unlawfully. So it is very scary, and they are weaponizing this and not downplaying anybody's trauma too as well. And like I said, Jonny Farina was caught in the thick of things and stuff like that. And that's something that's really scary. I know when I was in those moments, when we were in Portland and the Bernie van got smashed, I was scared shitless. I ran out of that van and I almost wet my pants because we knew there was cops pointing guns at us and we're screaming with press helmets on, press. I thought I was going to get lit up like a Christmas tree. But the fact is that we've also been to a lot of other actions, a lot of other protests. And I don't think this was anything above the norm that was so awful that the way the establishment is making it look out to be, they're using it for their benefit so they can weaponize it to create more policy. And we have to call it what it is. We've talked to over 50 people out there. The majority of the people, like we said, we met aunts, uncles, grandpas, newborn babies and stuff like that. They were concerned about the elections. They were learning and educating themselves about the elections. We were educating them about the elections. So that's what the majority of the people were there, because they thought the elections were rigged and they were faked. And there was plenty of evidence, and stop saying there's no evidence. There was plenty of evidence out there to provide the fact that these elections were fake. And that's what Donald Trump talked about.
Not fake, but they were
fraud, or
they were not. Yeah, at the very least were under question.
My bad. They should be questioned and audited properly. And like we said, Donald Trump's speech at the Ellipse was all about the elections and pointing out the evidence in which he thought the elections were wrong. Yeah. That is not,
whether you like him or not, whether you think he's a showman, which I do. I think he was just showing off. Regardless, if people don't trust in the system, they're going to question it, and they have every right to question it. I don't have to agree with it. I could think it's bullshit. It doesn't matter. The point is they have the right to do it. And when you come at things from this perspective, and this is further even than Glenn's going, because we understand elections, right? We know where this is coming from. We understand that people felt completely gaslighted, completely just smeared, like they didn't matter. And so that's why you had all those people there to show, hey, no, we matter. We're all these people. And not every single one of those people was a white supremacist. And the fact, the vast majority were not. And this isn't me defending the ideology. This is me just telling you what happened and being, of course, right. Months later, when you're seeing all this legislation pushed by the Biden administration, we called it in January. You can find my tweets. We called it in January that this was going to happen. Yeah. We said it from the start. And you have to notice too is what clips they used to promote what like the fear versus what was actually happening. They didn't use any clips where you saw young people, elderly people, families. They didn't use those clips where they saw people of color. Like they used the specific clips to promote fear. The very small group of people that was trying to enter the Capitol, they used those clips to promote it. They didn't talk about everybody else. And that is disingenuous reporting. And that is not what really happened. And we were there. Yeah. Jason Burmas was there. Yeah. Steve Poikonen was there. None of us, Andrew was there. None of us are Trump supporters. None of us, not a single one of us.
And here's the thing too, is very important. We talked to a lot of people. Yeah, we couldn't live stream it, and we stopped the live stream at one point, and we just started filming because we realized that we were getting cut off, and we weren't getting the message there. But when we talked to people, you know what I'm saying? That's why we can tell you clearly what we're reporting on was the fact that it wasn't a bunch of white supremacists and whatnot. In fact, where we were at one point in front of the stairs, there was a man of color who was walking around with dreads in the eyes, and he was asking people, you need water? Do you need aid? Do you need anything? Whatnot. And he was walking through. He wasn't getting hassled. People were like, no, we're fine. We were talking to people. Whatnot. So the narrative that they're putting forth, and they keep showing that, what do you call it? The guillotine or the noose and stuff like that to make it look like there's a bunch of white supremacists ready to hang people. That's just bullshit. We've seen a guillotine in front of Jeff Bezos' house put by a bunch of professors.
The left constantly talks about fucking guillotines. Why are you hypocrites? Yeah. The left talks about guillotining a bunch of people, gulags, a bunch of people. Why are you a hypocrite? Like it's a political thing. It's an effigy. Why? Like just because you don't like them doesn't mean that it's anything more. Yeah. Like and that's what people cannot. It goes back to the whole current affairs versus Glenn Greenwald thing. It's like they cannot separate their emotions of hating Trump and hating the right from understanding what logically happened. And I'm just so sick and tired of it because it's like they're like, you're being a right winger. Yeah. No, dude, I'm telling you the truth. It might not fit my narrative or your narrative, but that's the fucking truth. You have to tell the truth, period. End of story.
And Fiorella, I just want to point out that the people we talked to after the situation, when we were going to the airport, when we were just in the restaurants and stuff, they were disgusted by what happened.
They were.
The Trump people was like, that's not us. We're the party of law and order. We're the party of law and order. And they were disgusted what happened. The majority of the people, they're like, that's not what we're all about. And in fact, I talked to a friend and they were even pointing out the fact that when they marched down from the Ellipse to the Capitol, there was no violence, nothing happened. And they were really proud about that. that they were able to march peacefully from the ellipse down to the Capitol. But by the time they got to the Capitol, shit had already broke loose. That's the whole, that's another entity that people don't talk about.
And no group is a monolith. Again, like no group is a monolith. It's very, very hard to have a monolithic group. And like, and that's just, it's just not what happened, dude. It'd be so easy for us to be like, it was an insurrection. I'm so appalled. Let me clutch my pearls. It would be so fucking easy. We wouldn't be smeared all the time, but that's not the fucking truth. And people who aren't telling you the truth aren't telling you the whole story, because anybody could fucking take a clip and make it look like, oh my God, this was the whole thing. That's not what it was. And again, we've talked about this from the beginning. And the most important thing to get out of this is the legislation. And again, this is the Vice News thing. That reporters who survived the deadly Capitol riot. If you go, Oz, I guess I had skipped it. If you go to the tweets, 48, and if you click on the first Twitter Fiorella thread, if you click on that one,
is it the second tweet there?
This one
one right below that, Oz.
I just want to real quickly show that they failed. They didn't reach out to us.
You got it there. It's the Vice News one, Oz.
It's the Vice News one
at the top of the page. You can see the tweet in the box.
Is that it?
No. Go back to what you just had. Go back one page what you just had.
Okay.
Now put that on the top there. That's it right there. You can see it right there. That Vice News. There you go. Put that up.
All right.
Okay.
There you go.
So I just wanted to know that they didn't reach out to us. They didn't interview us. We were there. Our footage is one of the, besides the one that John Fiorina shot that was used widely. Our footage was also used widely to put this whole narrative, and we weren't invited to talk about what our trauma, because we didn't have a trauma from being there. We were more just disgusted at how we were seeing how it was portrayed from so differently from what we actually experienced. And that would have been doing actual journalism from Vice News to ask everybody, even those people who don't align with your narrative, hey, how did you guys experience it? They could have reached out to us. They didn't reach out to any of us.
We were in the thick of things, right? They used our video for taking these two guys and framing on them of that they were the ones who killed Officer Sitnik. We got that footage. So many outlets used it. We were right there. Nobody asked us how we're doing and stuff. Oh, they want to point out the fact that all these outlets robbed us, used our shit without our permission, that nobody's contacted us, but that's okay. But still, go to the people who are clutching their fucking pearls, who probably covered it from behind a desk and didn't even go there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And just like the AOC and Congress's dramatics, that I will call out as dramatics, because half of them weren't even there. And she was in a different room. I mean, this whole thing, again, that has been a complete and total exaggeration, 100%. And I'm sick and tired of it. And the last thing I want to point out on this is the consequences of this, guys. Jordan mentioned the water protectors. He mentioned the what he was doing back then. Well, here we go. Jessica Resnick, an immensely strong and courageous water protector, was sentenced on Wednesday to 8 years in federal prison for her actions to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline.
Go down a little bit, Oz, so we can show that right above this shirt, what it says.
And it says, you can jail the resistor, but not the resistance. So this is it's fine. This is the woman. If you scroll down a little bit, she said, I am saddened to be preparing for prison. My spirit remains strong. However, as I feel held in love, support, and prayer by so many near and far, regardless of my sentence, I am hopeful that movements to protect the water live on in the struggle against Line 3 and MVP. So there you go. There she is.
Yeah.
And then the judge sided with the federal prosecutors and applied a domestic terrorism enhancement to Jessica's case, saying it was necessary to discourage others from taking similar actions. The enhancement increases Jessica's sentence, but also has far-reaching implications for broader social justice movement. This use of this enhancement interprets nonviolent actions that challenge corporate profit as acts of terror against the government. One of Jessica's attorneys, Bill Quigley, stated the community of resistance will no doubt carry on, and history will judge if Jessica Resnicek is a criminal or a prophet. Many of us are betting she's a prophet. So you guys can read that in the article below. That's there. And
it's a water protector, fam.
Yeah. So guys, so when you make statements that, say, oh, this is an insurrection, this is a threat to our democracy, blah, 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 blah. You are playing into the hands of the state agencies, the national security apparatus, the police state we live in, this surveillance state. And you're allowing them to manipulate you through your emotions to hurt the very people you say you are there to protect. You say you're there to protect the water protectors, and you were marching at DAPL, but simultaneously you're over here calling this an insurrection and a coup, which it was not. And and this is a result. We have water protectors getting 8 years in jail for protesting a fucking pipeline using the DVE.
The domestic violent extremist tag right there. They're gonna come for you too as well. So just don't think this is the problem with playing team sports, right? You know what I'm saying? And the libertarian mindset, this is where it kind of really works, where you have to just talk about civil liberties across the board. Civil liberties across the board. You can't deny that, the fact is that they're gonna come after you just the way they're going to come after them. If you play team sports and you say it's okay for them to go after these people, say it's an insurrection, it's okay to classify somebody as a domestic terrorist, well, they're going to do it to you. They're going to do it to any dissenting voice out there. And 8 years for a water protector for this woman, that's insane, ladies and gentlemen.
That is injustice.
You have to be even Steven across the board, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I want to hear a lot of the people who are on the right and complaining about censorship also complain about this, because this is not okay. Just because you don't like her ideology, it goes the same for the fucking right. They do the same shit. They play team sports, and I'm sick and tired of that shit. Oh yeah, DeSantis is the number one hypocrite.
Yeah, because he's out there and he makes these laws that you're like, holy shit, you're gonna go after big tech and they're gonna fine them for censoring people unlawfully. This is amazing and stuff. But then he puts this
protest
bill,
yeah,
where if you tear down a statue during this protest, which could be deemed a riot,
not even that,
twice the sentence and whatnot. They did the same thing. They did the same thing over here. They're going to do to the people they're detaining right now on January 6th, unlawfully right now, because the state doesn't care who it is. They don't care what ism you follow, the predator class.
It literally says
jail you all.
Pro-abortion or anti-abortion. It doesn't matter. Socialist, right-winger, libertarian, boogaloo boy. It doesn't fucking matter. We're all in that. We all classify as all of these things.
Yes.
And that is why I stand against the surveillance state, and I stand against censorship, and I stand against this just exaggeration of the media, including people on the left, weaponizing this just riot. That's what it was. And having the left cheer for the police state, having the left cheer for the CIA. That, look where we're at, guys. We have people on the left who are going to suffer the most, by the way, because the people who are anti-government, anti-establishment are going to suffer the most. And that's the end result. They were using the right and the white domestic terrorists as a little hook for you to be like, oh yeah, go right ahead.
It was the carrot on the stick, babe. It was the carrot on the stick, fam. And your pearl clutching is allowing fascism to come walking right into the door. You don't invite it in, ladies and gentlemen.